The harsh winds of Zaltar howled outside the colony's walls as the sun dipped below the jagged horizon. The light shifted, casting long shadows across the land, and in the distance, a familiar, menacing silhouette stirred in the twilight. Lily Adams stood at the observation post, watching. The Griffin was out there, lurking, its massive form moving through the dense underbrush with predatory grace. No one had seen it this close before, and no one had dared to challenge it. Lily's hands were cold against the metal railing, but the chill didn't bother her. It was the gnawing tension that clung to her bones, a feeling she couldn't shake. They had seen the Griffin-S tracks before, huge claw marks in the dirt, bloodstains on the rocks, but tonight was different. Tonight, it was closer. "Captain Adams?" a voice called out from behind her. It was Major Ben Ortiz, his voice tight. "The perimeter's been reinforced. But you know as well as I do that it won't be enough if that thing decides to charge." Lily didn't turn. She knew he was right. The Griffin was no ordinary predator. It was a nightmare-given form, a beast of immense size and ferocity that had terrorized the colony for months. And every time they thought they had it cornered, it vanished, only to strike again when they least expected it. "We need to be ready," Lily said, her voice low but firm. "We'll give it one last chance. If it attacks, we fight back. But if it's just testing us again, we need to outsmart it." Ben nodded, his brow furrowed with concern. "You think it's watching us?" "I know it is." Lily's eyes never left the creature's silhouette, now just a shadow against the fading light. "It's studying us. Waiting for the right moment to strike." Ben's face was lined with worry, but he said nothing more. He knew better than to argue with Lily when she was this determined. For all her quiet confidence, she understood the danger better than anyone. They had fought off predators before, larger, more dangerous creatures, but the Griffin was different. No one had ever faced it and lived to tell the tale. It was too smart, too powerful, and no one knew what it really wanted. Until now. As the darkness deepened, the colony's defenses were set in motion. Automated turrets hummed to life, and floodlights illuminated the perimeter. Inside the walls, workers huddled in the makeshift shelters, waiting for the worst. The Griffin-S presence was a constant threat, and tonight, it felt closer than ever. Lily walked through the rows of bunkers, checking on the colony's readiness. She spoke briefly with a few of the engineers, offering quiet reassurances, though she felt the weight of her own doubts. What if tonight was the night? What if the creature had learned enough about them to outsmart their traps? By the time Lily reached the main control room, the air was thick with tension. The central monitor displayed the perimeter cameras, each one showing empty wilderness, or what appeared to be empty. But Lily knew the truth. The Griffin was out there, hidden just beyond their sight. "Anything yet?" she asked, stepping up to the console. Rhea Daniels, the colony's lead scientist, glanced up from her console, her face drawn with fatigue. "Nothing on the infrared. It's still out there, though. I can feel it." She paused, glancing at the other technicians who were monitoring the various systems. "It's not like the other predators we've faced. It's intelligent, adaptable. If it wants in, it'll find a way." Lily didn't respond right away. She turned toward the window, staring out at the darkened wilderness beyond the colony's walls. The Griffin had a strange way of making its presence known without showing itself. It stalked, watched, and waited. Ben entered the room, his face grim. "We've got an update from the Eastern Watchtower. It's close." Lily didn't hesitate. She stood, grabbing her rifle and slinging it over her shoulder. "Let's move." The air outside was colder now, the wind picking up speed as they approached the eastern tower. The colony's defenses were sturdy, but there was no guarantee they would hold if the Griffin decided to attack. The air was heavy with anticipation. Ben and Rhea flanked Lily as they reached the observation post, scanning the horizon with their weapons ready. The cameras showed a patch of deep forest, dark and still. "Can you see anything?" Lily asked, her eyes narrowed as she adjusted her visor. Ben scanned the trees through his scope. "Nothing yet. But I've got a feeling." Rhea stood off to the side, fiddling with a small handheld device. It's here. It's just waiting. I can feel its presence. It's not acting like the other creatures. It's almost calculated. Lily's stomach twisted. She knew the feeling Ria was talking about. The Gryphon wasn't just hunting. It was testing them, playing with them. The creature was studying their movements, learning how they reacted to its tactics. Stay sharp, Lily ordered, her voice tight. If it attacks, we hold our ground. The hours passed in silence. The wind howled, and the stars twinkled faintly overhead, but the Gryphon did not appear. It was unnerving in its stillness. Lily's eyes darted between the sensors, the horizon, and the others, her nerves taut as a bowstring. Something was off, but she couldn't pinpoint it. Was the creature waiting for them to make the first move? Or was it simply too intelligent to fall into their traps? It was when they least expected it that the ground shook beneath their feet. The Gryphon's roar split the night air, low and guttural, sending a jolt of fear through the team. Lily's heart hammered in her chest. It was time. Get ready, she snapped. The Gryphon burst from the tree-line with terrifying speed, its massive form moving with frightening precision. It was everything they had prepared for, and more. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dark, and its jaws, lined with razor-sharp teeth, were already open in a terrifying display of power. It was here to kill. But instead of charging directly at them, the creature hesitated. Lily's mind raced. It's waiting for something. Ben raised his weapon, ready to fire, but Lily stopped him. The creature's massive head turned toward her, and for a moment, their gazes locked. The Gryphon's eyes were a deep, haunting black, but there was something in them, something almost familiar. Before anyone could react, the Gryphon made a sound that sent chills down their spines. It wasn't a growl, nor a roar, it was a sound that could only be described as curious, almost questioning. Then, to their astonishment, the creature did something no one had expected. It lowered itself to the ground, curling up into a ball, its head resting just inches from Lily's feet. Lily stood frozen, her rifle still raised but no longer aimed at the beast. She felt a strange warmth seep through the cold night air. This wasn't an attack. It was something else. Is it sleeping? Ria whispered, her voice thick with disbelief. Lily didn't know what to make of it. The Gryphon was supposed to be their greatest threat, a monster that could tear them apart. But here it was, lying peacefully at her feet, as if nothing had happened. As if it were just another creature, tired from the chase. She lowered her rifle, her mind struggling to process what was happening. It's not here to kill us, she murmured to herself, more to reassure herself than anyone else. But the question lingered in her mind, why? Why was the Gryphon here, now, sleeping at her feet like a tame animal? And what did this strange, inexplicable bond mean for the future of the colony? As the Gryphon lay peacefully by her side, Lily's mind raced with unanswered questions. This beast, this monster, was no longer the enemy. It was something else entirely. But what? And more importantly, what would the rest of the colony think when they discovered the truth? Lily paced the observation deck, her boots tapping against the cold metal floor. The Gryphon was still outside the colony walls, lying on its massive side as though nothing had ever happened. It was a strange sight, an apex predator of unimaginable size and ferocity, now reduced to a harmless creature, resting quietly on the ground. Her mind was racing. This was the Gryphon, the same creature that had caused so much havoc, the one they had been terrified of. But now, it was seemingly docile. Ben Ortiz's voice broke through her thoughts. You're still thinking about it, aren't you? Lily turned to find him leaning in the doorway, his arms crossed, eyes narrowed with concern. She nodded, rubbing the back of her neck. I don't know what to think, Ben. This isn't what I expected. Yeah, no kidding, Ben replied, stepping into the room. You're telling me that thing is just lying there? Not tearing down our walls? Not killing everything in its path? It's not attacking, Lily said, more to herself than to him. But it's not like any predator I've ever seen. It's acting different. Ben leaned against the wall, his gaze distant. Maybe it's playing us. We don't know how smart it is, or what it wants. You've got to be careful, Lily. That thing doesn't forget. Lily sighed and walked to the control panel, reviewing the colony's surveillance data. The Griffin had been unusually still for hours now, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She was no stranger to danger, but this situation was unprecedented. The creature wasn't acting like a typical predator. If anything, it was almost passive. What if it's hurt? Rhea Daniels' voice came from behind her, soft but thoughtful. Lily turned to find the colony's lead scientist entering the room. Rhea's expression was puzzled, yet her curiosity was evident. Hurt? Lily echoed. Rhea nodded, looking up at the monitor displaying the Griffin outside. Think about it. What if this behavior isn't just out of curiosity? What if it's injured? We've never really seen it up close before. What if it's not here to fight? What if it's just trying to rest? Lily shook her head, skeptical. If it were injured, why would it come so close to the colony? It's been attacking us for weeks. Why would it suddenly stop? That's what we need to figure out, Rhea said, her voice firm. The Griffin has been acting unusually, and we can't keep assuming it's just here to kill. Maybe it's not the enemy we thought it was. The decision was made quickly. They needed to get closer to the creature. Not to attack or provoke, but to observe. And perhaps, if they were lucky, they could gain some insight into its sudden change in behavior. Lily gathered her gear, her rifle, a few medical tools, and a communicator. Ben and Rhea would follow her. She wasn't sure what she was hoping to find, but she knew one thing: they couldn't let this opportunity slip through their fingers. If the Griffin had changed, if there was a chance it wasn't a mindless killer, then they had to understand why. The walk to the perimeter felt longer than it had the previous day. As they neared the outer wall, the Griffin's massive form became more visible. The creature had not moved an inch. Its breathing was steady, a low rumble in the otherwise quiet night. Despite its size, it looked almost peaceful now, a far cry from the terror it had inspired. Ben was the first to speak, his voice quiet. You're really going to approach it? You know what happens if it decides to turn on us, right? Lily didn't reply at first. She wasn't sure herself. There was something about the creature's posture that made her hesitate. It didn't seem threatening, more vulnerable. It had curled up into a ball, much like an animal in need of comfort. I'm not going to hurt it, Lily said finally, voice steady. I just need to understand what's happening. They approached slowly, Ben keeping a careful distance, and Rhea close behind, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and curiosity. As they neared, Lily's heart raced. The Griffin hadn't reacted to their approach. She stopped just a few feet away from it, kneeling slowly to get a closer look. Rhea crouched beside her, pulling out a small scanner. I'm reading strange data, anomalies in its biosignature. It's almost as if it's shutting down some of its systems. Lily watched the creature intently. Its huge eyes were closed, but she could see its chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. It was asleep, or perhaps in some kind of stasis. She didn't know enough to say for sure. Maybe it's been overstressed, Rhea muttered. It's possible the creature's been pushed to the brink. Think about it, constant attacks, constant stress. Maybe it's exhausted, mentally or physically. Lily stood up slowly, taking a step closer. The Griffin didn't move. If it's exhausted, why did it attack the colony in the first place? Maybe it didn't know what else to do, Rhea offered. We could be a threat in its mind. The territory, the resources. We don't know how long it's been alone. For all we know, this creature might be searching for something. Or someone. Lily's gaze shifted to the creature's massive form. The idea of it being alone, of searching for something, hit her with an unexpected weight. She knelt again, this time gently reaching out toward its scaled hide. As her fingers brushed against its fur, she felt a warmth beneath her touch, a life pulsing beneath the beast's hard exterior. The Griffin stirred. Lily froze, her breath catching. For a moment she thought it might lash out. But instead, the creature slowly lifted its head, its massive eyes blinking in the dim light. It didn't roar. It didn't snarl. It simply stared at her, and for the first time, there was no malice in its gaze. There was curiosity. Ben raised his rifle, but Lily stopped him with a hand. She kept her eyes locked with the Gryverness. "Don't move," she whispered. The creature didn't move either. It just watched her. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence between them stretched out, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was almost understanding. Finally, Lily took a slow step back. The Gryvern didn't follow. It didn't growl. It simply lowered its head again, curling up as though it had never been disturbed. Lily's mind raced. What was happening? Was this the same Gryvern that had terrorized the colony? Or had something changed? Rhea broke the silence. "What do we do now?" Lily didn't answer right away. She watched the creature one last time before turning to Ben and Rhea. "We wait. But this changes everything." As Lily stood watching the Gryvern, her mind raced with 1,000 questions. If the creature was no longer their enemy, what did that mean for the colony? And more importantly, if it wasn't hostile, what had brought it here in the first place? Lily wasn't sure, but she knew one thing: nothing would be the same again. The sun had barely risen over the horizon of Zaltar when Lily Adams stood at the observation post again. She couldn't tear her eyes away from the dark silhouette of the Gryvern, still lying outside the perimeter of the colony, its massive form undisturbed by the rising light. It had been hours since their last encounter, but the creature had not moved. Not once. It was as if it had simply decided to rest. The colony had been abuzz with confusion and fear ever since Lily returned from the wilderness with her strange story. She had told them that the Gryvern was no longer a threat, that it wasn't there to destroy them, but most of the colonists, especially the military leaders, were skeptical. And who could blame them? They had witnessed the Gryvern's wrath firsthand. The terror it instilled in everyone was still fresh in their minds. Ben Ortiz joined her at the post, his footsteps heavy against the metal floor. His face was tight, but there was a glint of curiosity in his eyes. "Anything?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "No," Lily replied softly, her gaze still fixed on the beast. "It hasn't moved an inch. It just sleeps. Like nothing happened." Ben crossed his arms, his jaw clenched. "It's not natural. That thing has been hunting us for weeks, and now it's just going to lie there like a lazy dog. I don't buy it." Lily didn't look at him. "Neither do I. But something's different. We need to find out what." Rhea Daniels entered the room, her face full of concern but also curiosity. "Lily, we've got more data. I ran a full analysis on the Gryvern's biosignature from yesterday's scan. There's something we missed. It's not just resting." Lily turned to face her. "What do you mean?" Rhea's fingers tapped against the console as she pulled up the data on the large screen. "I've been looking at its behavioral patterns. It's acting like it's vulnerable. Its heart rate is lower than usual, its energy levels are off. I think it's injured." Lily's stomach twisted. "Injured? How?" Rhea shook her head, frustration creeping into her voice. "I don't know. But there's something in its physiology that's not normal. If we can get close enough, I can run a deeper scan. But I still don't understand why it's here." Lily turned her attention back to the creature outside. "Maybe it's here because it's too weak to leave. Or maybe it's not leaving because it doesn't want to hurt us. But that's just speculation. We need answers." Ben sighed and stepped toward the exit. "All right, we're going to get answers. But we do it carefully. That thing's still dangerous, whether it's hurt or not." The plan was simple: approach the Gryvern, but only with extreme caution. Lily, Ben, and Rhea would venture out to the perimeter and gather more data on the creature. This time, they would have medical equipment and tranquilizers in case they needed to subdue it. Lily wasn't sure what to expect, but if the creature was injured, they might be able to help it, if it let them. As they approached the outer wall, the Gryvern was still lying motionless. It looked smaller somehow, less imposing than it had the last time they encountered it. The once ferocious beast now resembled a wounded animal, curled up in the dirt, resting beneath the weight of its own exhaustion. Lily motioned for Ben and Riyadh to stay back as she stepped closer, her heart pounding in her chest. Every instinct told her to be careful, to keep her distance. But the creature was no longer attacking. If anything, it seemed to be inviting them closer. "Is this really a good idea?" Ben asked in a low voice. "That thing could wake up at any moment, and we'd be its next meal." Lily didn't respond immediately. She was focused, her mind working through the possibilities. The Gryphon's behavior was unlike anything she'd ever seen. If it were truly injured, that might explain its strange passivity. But the question remained, why had it come to them? Why here? She knelt down a few feet away from the creature, taking a cautious step forward. The air was thick with the smell of earth and sweat, and the wind had picked up, tugging at her jacket. Rhea stepped up beside her, carefully adjusting the medical scanner in her hands. As she scanned the creature, its massive head twitched, a low growl rumbling from deep within its chest. Lily froze, but the Gryphon didn't move. It simply turned its head slightly to the side, its enormous eyes meeting hers. The creature didn't seem angry. It didn't seem anything at all. It was as if it were waiting for something. Lily's heart thudded in her chest, and for a split second, she felt a strange connection to the beast. She couldn't explain it, but there was a sense of understanding between them, an unspoken recognition. It wasn't a monster. It was a creature, just like any other, one that had been forced into a corner and made to fight for its survival. "Rhea, what's the skin showing?" Lily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Rhea looked at the display, her eyes widening. "This doesn't make sense. The Gryphon has a unique metabolic condition. It's not just hurt, it's healing. Very slowly, but it's recovering from something serious. I think it might have been wounded before it even got to us." Ben stepped forward, his voice sharp with disbelief. "You're saying it was hurt? That thing has been terrorizing the colony, and now you're telling me it was already injured. Why would it attack if it was already in pain?" Lily stood, still staring at the creature. "I don't know. But maybe it wasn't attacking us out of malice. Maybe it was just trying to protect itself, trying to survive." Rhea frowned, looking back at the data. "There's something else. Its heart rate is increasing. It's reacting to something. I think it's sensing us, as part of its territory. It's not afraid, Lily. It's marking us, as if we're not a threat anymore." Lily processed this new information, the realization slowly dawning on her. The Gryphon wasn't just a beast. It was more complex. It had its own survival instincts, just like any creature, but it had never fully understood humans until now. Perhaps, for the first time, it was willing to recognize them as something more than prey. But what did this mean for the colony? "Let's go back inside," Lily said, her voice calm, though her mind was racing. "We need to talk to the council. This changes everything." Back inside the control room, the mood was tense. Lily stood before the council, explaining everything she had seen. Some of the leaders were still skeptical, but the data Rhea provided helped sway some minds. They couldn't ignore the evidence. The Gryphon wasn't just a mindless monster. It was a creature capable of more than just destruction. "We need to rethink how we deal with this," Lily said. "If the Gryphon is recovering and not actively hunting, then we have a choice. We can keep fighting it, pushing it away, or we can try to understand it, see if it's willing to coexist with us." The room fell silent as the council members deliberated. Some were on edge, unwilling to let go of their fear of the creature. But others, like Rhea, saw a potential solution, a way forward that didn't involve violence. Finally, one of the leaders spoke. "We have to make a decision. But I agree, if there's a chance of working with this creature, then we should explore it. It might be the only way forward." Lily nodded. The Gryphon had become something else, something new. And the future of the colony, perhaps the future of humanity on Zaltar, depended on their ability to understand it. Ending hook. As Lily stepped away from the council table, she glanced out the window at the Gryphon, still lying peacefully just outside the walls. She didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain: Zaltar had changed forever. Whether for better or worse, only time would tell. But with the Grivern at their side, humanity might just have a fighting chance.